Should we get started?
Yep.
All right, about 16 people. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the information session on managing non-technical risks. My name is Radha Krishnan, and I'm the Managing Director of UH Energy, and it's a pleasure to talk to you about this course. Today we will be going over, can you move to the next slide? And I'm just waiting on the next slide, yeah. Very good.
Wait, I'm sorry.
So as we said, this is an informational session. So after we've gone through, please feel free to ask any questions that you may have, and we will be happy to answer them for you. Today's agenda, which is the next slide, we will be covering, waiting on the next slide, yep. So we'll just to go through a little bit of introductions of who some of the team members are, and then we will walk you through a little bit of why non-technical risk matters. This is our best understanding of this, and then specifically why this program for you, okay? And after we've gone through that, we'll walk you through the program structure and what a typical session would look like, and talk a little bit about who the target audience is, and then comes the important part, which is, what is the pricing structure, and most importantly, the next steps. Then we'll open it up for Q&A. So that let us start with the non-technical risk. I'll wait to introduce my people in a couple of slides. Next slide, please. When we talk about non-technical risks, one might just wonder, have we taught this course before? And what is our track record? We have taught this course. When I just say we, I'll introduce some of the other partners in crime on this one in a couple of slides. And we have taught this 3 times before. And at that time, we used to call them as ESG. And we have always debated whether we should call it ESG or whether we should call it non-technical risks. And I think a non-technical risk is a much more appropriate term. And for some of us who have worked in industry and in the past also, even as early as 2000, we had always called it as non-technical risk. And then in between, the terms ESG became more prominent. So we are reverting back to what would be the more appropriate way to describe what we are going to talk about. So we all know that the energy landscape is changing, and that is, to put it very mildly. We know about the transition to low carbon, cost competitive, reliable systems. And this is going on. We also have courses on that one. And the growing concern for sustainability, safety, social responsibility is becoming, quite important these days. And to add to all of this, has always been complex, and it is getting even more complex, these days. I know we lost the slide. I don't know whether we should be getting back into that slide. All right, very good, thank you. And so why non-technical risks and what they contain? Generally, on risks, and whatever are the risks as they face. And this is risks completely, which is both the kinds of things, technical and other kinds of risks, commercial risks that we anticipate. But these days, you're seeing more and more of people wanting to understand non-technical risks. So why do investors want to look at risks? Just like you would if you were looking at investment in a particular operation, you always want to assess what's the risk. If the risk is minimal, returns are decent, you're always willing to jump in. So you're balancing between the return and the risk. But if you did not have a full understanding of all the risks, that blindsides you. And investors don't like that. So they're always wanting to know all the types of risks. That is why it makes it onto an annual report. You have to be honest about it, and every company spends a lot of time trying to make sure that the description of risks is complete and thorough. And so when you look at non-technical risks, these are kinds of risks that you don't actually think about directly. And if you may handle the technical risks, but if you didn't handle it adequately, pretty soon it just grows and becomes significant from other angles. So I'll give you an example. If you look at the pipeline extension from Canada, initially it started out as a good project. Everybody wanted to move the Canadian crude into Cushing, Oklahoma, and then further down into the Gulf Coast. It was always there. They look at all the kinds of risks that they run into. However, they knew that there was something concerns about the community. How well they handled was all the issue. When you don't handle it, it became more and more dominant, and even went through 3 presidents to really rule on it. At the end, risks were significant. The whole project got canceled. That's just to give you start in one place. Pretty soon, if you don't pay attention to all the details, pretty soon it becomes a lot more on the non-technical portion that takes over. Next slide. So why this program? So response to, again, today's challenges. And the key thing about this program is this is being taught by people who have walked this path, many, many times. We have several of the people who are very heavily involved in the directing the program and developing the program and teaching the program, which I will introduce in the next slide. And so it is complex, and bringing in something that is very practical, down to earth. People who have practiced, understand some of the challenges that you face, and are realistic in terms of how they offer solutions. So that is the specialty of this program. And at the end, you will be left with some tools, techniques, examples, case studies that you can utilize. You always have the resource of the entire team to answer any questions that you might have. So with that, let me just move on to introducing the team that is involved in this. Next slide, please. And the team consists of, as I said, very experienced people. And all I can just say is between some of these guys, some of them have been absolute pioneers. This is not the first rodeo for them. They have done this for well over 25 years. And some of them have written essentially the first books on these. They are the ones who have been very heavily involved in shaping several corporations' approaches, and as such, being trailblazers in how we should tackle some of this. So with that, let me start with all my colleagues here. I'll ask each one of them to introduce themselves. Amy, you want to go next? You're muted, Amy.
Hi, everyone. Excited to have you here at our informational session. I'm Amy Mifflin. I'm a principal consultant partner at Sestrio Inc., which is based in both Canada and the US. I spent 30 years in the energy sector prior in corporate side before coming into consulting. And certainly during that 30 years, spent a great deal of time working on non-technical risks in, developing nations to right here in the US and Canada. So really excited to have you all a part of this informational session, and certainly we'll be happy to engage you after we go through a few more slides. Chris, I'll pass it to you.
Thank you. Really delighted to join today. I'm based here in Houston. I retired from Shell a couple of years ago. As I like to say, I failed retirement very quickly and joined Ernst & Young. This is a very important topic for me, something that I'm very, very passionate about. During my tenure with Shell, I actually ran the global function that looked at non-technical risks and social performance, developing tools. I myself, in the early parts of my career, got burnt many, many times because I ignored non-technical risks. I will tell you that, if you take this course, you will learn some of these things. 75% of value erosion really comes from this side of issues. So especially in the extractives industry. So you can set up and do all sorts of great things. You lose value from the non-technical risk side because usually corporations know exactly what to do on the technical side. And I'll close by telling you this is such an important topic for me that at 60 years old, or a couple of years before, I decided I want to do my doctorate in this. And so while I teach a full semester class at the University of Houston, I'm also a student and I'm doing my thesis on non-technical risk and the relationship to value and value erosion. So happy to join this.
Excellent. Thank you, Chris. Marie?
Thanks, Amy, Chris, Dr. Rada. And Chris, I guess you want to do your doctorate to add a little bit of a title to that very brief, short summary under your name. But no, Chris and Amy and Dr. Rada have been really pioneers in this space. And so I'm Marie Merle Kekebek. I'm an executive at Baker Hughes, which is an energy technology company. I lead our global deployment of our sustainability strategy, and I also handle the key strategic relationships that Baker Hughes builds externally to ensure that we are making progress in our energy transition. And so I'll echo what Chris said regarding being passionate about this subject. It's my 24th year in the energy industry. And I didn't always work in sustainability when I was graduating and growing up. There really wasn't a sustainability degree per se, but very quickly I realized the importance of non-technical risks and the value add of really looking at the full impact a company has, no matter the size of the company, no matter where you're located, where you operate. There's a lot out there that you need to be aware of, and a lot out there that come together and play a role in a company's license to operate, a company's access to capital. And so it's really having that broader lens and looking at, what are things that are in your operational control and what are things that you can partner on that have been really driving the passion that I have in this space. One of the things I'll talk about as part of my career that really kind of shifted how I see things is that the regular reporting arms of government typically ask for financial disclosures, right? It's all financial risk based, coupled with technical risk. And when you look at non-financial risk and you're looking at, your impact on the environment, on social, how those things together, how the governance of your company weaves together and builds that steady foundation. that's when everything comes together and it actually helps drive revenue. And so the reason, Dr. Rada, you brought this up at the beginning is, do we call this ESG risk? Do we call this non-technical risks? ESG has been a little bit divisive, and people end up getting into these political debates where really we want to kind of take all of that aside and come to the table as one and look at what are these risks, what do they mean, how do they translate into financials, and how can we take a proactive approach for the benefit of really all of the individuals who are going to be joining this. So really excited and honored to be part of this. I find it incredibly value added.
If you move to the next slide, we have the other people. Is Caroline here?
I am. I'm apologizing also, and I'm apologizing for being late, but here I am. So introductions, I believe, right? Carolina Ortega, I am the Vice President for Sustainability and Communications at Milestone Environmental Services. We are primarily a energy waste management company, but we also have an important business unit doing carbon sequestration and industrial waste management. I've been doing sustainability like all of us for many, many years and have a huge passion for it. I believe that some of the biggest successes that I've been a part of in my career in different companies is working with teams that actually identify non-technical risks and change the trajectory of and the success of some important projects that we've been involved in. So it's everything from engaging with communities all the way to identifying better ways to, for example, have a safety culture that is more encompassing than just the regulatory requirements around it. So it's part of how I work. It's part of what I do in companies is help understand and raise the level of non-technical risks so that we become more successful in the future. And echoing what has been said before as well, whether it's ESG or sustainability or corporate citizenship or whatever the term has gradually evolved into in the last 20 years, I think that the bottom line is non-technical risk management. And if you do it well, you're doing sustainability, right? So that's what I've been focusing on for the last 25 years, and really looking forward to see where this field develops in the next 20 years.
Excellent.
Ravi?
Yeah, this is Ravi Shankar. I'm very pleased to be here this morning. All I learned about technical risk, non-technical risk, sustainability comes from this excellent group that we are seeing today. Amy, Dr. Radhakrishnan, Chris, Mary, and Carolina, they have taught me quite well, I can say that. I am presently Senior Director for Environment and Sustainability for Occidental Petroleum. I've had the privilege of working with this group quite extensively, both directly on projects as well as through this program. My main function nowadays, depending on which day you ask me, heavily focused on carbon accounting, as well as many of the social responsibility and social investments and social engagements. In addition to that, I'm the chair for Low Carbon Operational Efficiency Group for IOGP, as well as I am the executive chair for IPCA. The main thing that brings from those associations, which I want to bring to this program, is how to integrate the non-technical risks, which are quite complex and quite demanding in terms of how do you engage with external stakeholders, how do you internalize the externalities is the biggest part of this whole program. You may win the battle but lose the war, as they say. So we have had experiences of having a very well-designed technical projects, but failing on the grounds of non-technical issues? And how do you really anticipate, look the risk aspects of it, and do the planning and engagements of the stakeholders and shareholders is an extremely important component of the whole program. I think this group here, everybody has got excellent experience. And I think this course can greatly benefit from all those real practical examples of engagements with shareholders, investment groups, financial institutions, and also community engagements. There are specific components within this program, such as climate investments, as well as climate risk and adaptation. There's a lot happening in that space, especially on adaptation and carbon accounting and product level carbon management, including how do you integrate those as part of your management systems. That's one of the things Carolina and I have done extensive work related to internalizing it through the management system, non-technical risk. How do you really operationalize it is a very important focus areas. And hopefully I can shed some light on some of these things that I mentioned. And most certainly, I am the beneficiary here learning from this group and hope to share some of my limited experience on these areas. Thanks for including me, Amy and Dr. Thakrishnan, and really excited to see Mary and Carolina and Chris on the line.
Thank you so much, Ravi, and thanks all of you. As you might just see, I was just quickly adding up the numbers. We at least have about 120 years of experience, coming into sharing with you all that experience as part of this course. As I said, this is not the first time we have been teaching this. So each time we improve it a little bit, and hopefully that's of a lot more benefit. The key thing that you probably saw among all these speakers, first of all, they are all, the titles are big or sometimes quite small, like a VP and so on. And but it doesn't mean that they're just there for an administrative role. While that is part of it, these guys have grown in this whole area, spending years, shaping it and essentially making it a key part of their company. So we are really lucky to have all of them and as part of the group. And so if we can have the next slide, please. So I will just talk a little bit about what this program is. You may have heard about, these kind of micro-credentials. Essentially, the concept of that is essentially associated a lot with courses that are offered in the software industry. You just want to get yourself a credential, not a whole degree program, and then essentially you can just say that I have this particular course that I have taken on whatever is the software. This is catching on with many other areas where people are quite knowledgeable about many things, but they want to learn a little bit more about something that is important to them and to their companies. That's where this started. The University of Houston has caught on, especially UH Energy. We are offering these micro-credential programs in several areas. So it is normally structured in terms of badges. In this particular ones, you have 3 different badges, and they are, together becomes the whole program. It is taught by an academic institution, and as such, it easily passes muster for being a good credential. It is permanent, portable recognition, and key in this particular course is you really learn the skills to do it. And that is what is important. Next slide, please. With that, let me just ask Amy to, start on the program structure and walk us through that.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Rada. Yes, so the big picture of our program structure is there are 3 badges. Each badge has 2 modules, so therefore, if you take all 3, you'll end up in 6 modules, and there's 6 sessions per badge. So it's kind of a step-by-step pathway. We're kind of leading you through. Each is building blocks upon each of the previous ones. It's a blended learning model, so you certainly have online flexibility, but we do have an in-person engagement. Those engagements will be every 6th session. In some of the badge or modules, we have decided we may put 2 live sessions in just to kind of, work with everyone as you're building your material through, because as I said, everything kind of gradually builds upon itself. So each session will have, a detailed agenda and schedule for you to follow along so that you can see when those things may occur. And again, this is designed with academic rigor, coupled with practical tools. So you get a lot of practicality, applicability, things that you can take away immediately and start applying in your day-to-day work. And then also we use case studies, simulations to really kind of enhance the learning. And those are really based on real world experiences, like what's happening out there. Certainly, as we've been discussing through this, media, social media, all of these different types of projects that may have challenges and hit the news, we'll bring those right into the space and have conversations about those as well. So next slide. So the badge series overview. So badge 1 is really kind of setting the foundational structure, especially in module 1, just kind of getting everyone kind of grounded in the same aspects of the core concepts. But then we're also going to bring in the leadership culture, in your organization, just really talk about ethics, accountability. Those really are extremely important, especially on the governance side of those type of risks. And then in the second module, we'll do more hyper focusing into environmental, social risk, financial performance, and a lot of those kind of core components. In badge 2, framework standards implementation, there's lots of frameworks. There's new frameworks that come out. We'll talk about what those things look like, how they're important, how to decipher which ones to use, but not just kind of talk through them, but how they can be applicable, how you can use them to really in your non-technical risk application, so you can really kind of see where your gaps are, things you want to work on, what kind of action plans you want to put together. And as some of the team mentioned, especially how does it become integrated into your management systems? So it's not just, one person leading or trying to push it through. It's how does it become integrated and operationalized into what you're doing. So we'll spend a great deal of time in batch 2 working on those things. And then in batch 3, this is where some more advanced applications will come in, building resiliency, creating, long-term value creation. I mean, just a lot of different components that really build that long-term strategy, very healthy aspects to how these can really help in decision making. And then we'll spend time talking about future trends, challenges, opportunities. Even as the team was talking, they're talking about things that they're working on present day, and we'll bring those in to the conversation toward the latter half of batch 3. So this is badge 1, module 1. This is sort of the layout. This is very typical of how we've structured the coursework. So you'll see session 1, session 2. Each of those are about an hour and a half in totality. So as you start to think about how you want to self-pace and go through this, we've kind of built this bridge for you so that you can kind of see how things will be laid out, so it kind of keeps you on track and you feel comfortable and confident, not rushing to do everything at the end to meet the final week. So this is just a little bit of a way for us to structure it, but also have check-in periods like quizzes, or it might be an extended homework activity that we have you do. But all of this accumulates into 5 sessions through weeks 1 through 3. And then that 4th week is when we'll come together and have a live session. And there's structure to that live session that you'll submit questions ahead of time. There's some different things that we'll pull from the material that you're submitting that make up your individual activities. You'll have some reflection pieces that we've designed in the course material. There's poll, like an interactive poll. And then even though those won't be happening in real time as you're taking it, but we'll collect that information, but we'll talk about those type of things and make that a very structured, group engagement and discussion session. So we think you'll get a lot out of that, but it'll be a great opportunity for you to really engage with the industry experts and have a little bit more opportunity with them as well. And then you'll do a final sort of exam, have 1 week post the session to turn in what those materials are. So that's sort of the core makeup of what you can expect and see as we go through the non-technical risk and impact management. Dr. Rada, anything you wanted to add there?
No, I think you're doing good.
Okay,
Continue.
good. All right. And in the next slide, this is just a typical snapshot of what the 90-minute flow kind of feels like. We just wanted to kind of give you some insight to that. I'm not going to go through all of this. You'll have this. But, it's just kind of building blocks on top of different things moving fluidly from foundational pieces to case examples and discussion, interactive exercises, tools and frameworks. And then, certainly throughout there's reflection and applicability, like what does it mean to you and how does it fit the context in which you're working on? So there'll be plenty of time for that woven into the 90-minute flow. And then there's always the session recap and then brief homework assignments. What those might look like are pretty simple. Could be like, take this article and, summarize what you think about what you're, kind of reading and so on and so forth. So our whole, idea here is to really kind of, not only just give lecture, but have you kind of integrate in kind of what you're thinking and where you're at. And please don't fret if you're brand new to non-technical risk. We will give you examples that you can borrow and use so that it still is building your core capabilities around that as well.
Just to reinforce what Amy had said, if you really looked at how a typical class will be, it's not only teaching you the content of what we wanted to talk about in that particular session, like in this case about the foundations, but reinforcing that with an interactive exercise, a case example, some tools and frameworks that you can use, all of which is slowly drawing you first to make you understand the concept a lot better through the case examples, using the tools to actually learn how to apply them so that when you are on your own, you could just put them to practice. The reflection is a very critical piece of what we do, because that is when you try to assimilate in your own terms what it means. And that may raise some questions. And we would like to hear them. And that's where the other sessions are, to answer those kinds of questions. Hopefully, it just makes it a whole learning experience.
Absolutely. Next slide. So who's the target audience? I mean, from our perspective in Perch, it can be anybody. And the typical players are listed there in the first bullet, but obviously we think everyone can benefit from going through non-technical risk courses such as this. Emerging aspiring professionals, certainly, if you're early in your career, or if you're just wanting to pivot, or if this is of core interest. You heard as our instructors were introducing themselves, I mean, there's real passion around this topic. So if that is who you are too, we've had in our former courses people, taking this and then propelling themselves right into sustainability and ESG non-technical risk roles inside companies or other companies that they chose to go to. So lots of great opportunity to learn, network, and really kind of build your experience level in this. And then, of course, leaders, cross-functional roles, executives, managers, anyone that's really navigating sometimes that external environment and the pressures in which it certainly presents on any given day. So pricing and packages. So each individual badge is priced at $1,500. And then it's if you want to go all 3 badges, and there's actually a bundle package for you as well, which will give a discount. But again, it's seamless progression through all the sessions as you go, and each can stand on their own too. So even though we're building on those scenarios and pulling that thread through, we do keep in mind that you might not be interested in badge 1, but you could be in badge 2 and 3. So again, we'll work with you on that. So in case there's anything, we'll catch you up to speed if you're just joining at a different batch pace. And then, of course, you're earning the University of Houston's Micro-credential digital certificate in non-technical risk management at the end of the course when you have your final exam submitted and everything has checked out. You'll also receive your resume and LinkedIn ready badge icons as well that you can use as you need to. So schedule and format, where the program start is Monday, September 22nd. The registration deadline is September 15th. And then on that Monday, as you sign up, we'll be, posting information to you about when the first introductory classes that will be live as well. So it'll be about 30-45 minutes where we'll make sure that you feel comfortable with the university platform where you can access everything that you'll need to do the self-paced course, submit homework, where the discussion board is, any questions that you might have, or if you need individual attention from any of us, then there will be space where you can reach out to us on that. So we'll make sure that you feel fully comfortable before you get started and answer all your questions that you have so that it can be a very successful start for you in badge 1. So as for next steps, we're going to take a pause here and see if you guys have any questions. And certainly you can raise your hand, or I don't know, maybe is the chat working? If you want to submit your question in chat, maybe people have already been doing that.
Maybe we can bring everybody up on the screen.
So if anybody has any questions, feel free to bring it up.